Airframe, hydraulic and pneumatic power systems. What type of packing should be used in hydraulic components to be installed in a system containing skydrow? Packing materials made for ester-based fluids. The purpose of the pressure regulator in a hydraulic system is to maintain system operating pressure within a predetermined range and to unload the pump. What is the pressure of using backup rings with O-rings in hydraulic systems above 1500 psi? Prevent high pressure from extruding the seals between the moving and stationary part. Which must be done before adjusting the relief valve of a hydraulic system incorporating a pressure regulator? Eliminate the action of the unloading valve. How would the air pressure charge in the accumulator be determined if the engine is inoperative, but the system still has hydraulic pressure? Operate a hydraulic unit slowly and note the pressure at which a rapid pressure drop begins as it goes towards zero. Hydraulic system thermal relief valves are set to open at a higher pressure than the system relief valve. A unit which transforms hydraulic pressure into linear motion is called an actuating cylinder. Most variable displacement aircraft hydraulic pumps in use contain a built-in means of system pressure regulation. Relief valves are used in pneumatic systems as damage-preventing units. Chattering of the hydraulic pump during the operation is an indication that air is entering the pump. If an engine-driven hydraulic pump of the correct capacity fails to maintain normal pressure during the operation of a cowl flap actuating unit, the probable cause is restriction in the pump outlet. Extrusion of an O-ring seal is prevented in a high-pressure system by the use of backup ring on the side of the O-ring away from the pressure. To protect seals from damage when installed over a threaded section, the threaded section should be covered with a suitable sleeve. What is commonly used to connect an emergency source of power and at the same time disconnect the normal hydraulic source from critical parts of the landing gear or wheel braking system for operation, usually when the normal source system fails? A shuttle valve. An aircraft pneumatic system, which incorporates an engine-driven multi-stage reciprocating compressor, also requires a moisture separator. What is one advantage of piston-type hydraulic motors over electric motors? There is no fire hazard if the motor is stalled. Hydraulic fluid filtering elements constructed of porous paper are normally discarded at regular intervals and replaced with new filtering elements. Before removing the filler cap of a pressurized hydraulic reservoir, in order to service the system, the aviation mechanic must relieve the air pressure. The primary function of the flap overload valve is to prevent the flaps from being lowered at airspeeds which would impose excessive structural loads. What condition would most likely cause excessive fluctuation of the pressure gauge when the hydraulic pump is operating? Inadequate supply of fluid. The purpose of a hydraulic pressure regulator is to relieve the pump of its load when no actuating units are being operated. A hydraulic system, referred to as a power pack system, will have all hydraulic power components located in one unit. What function does the absolute pressure regulator perform in pneumatic power systems? Regulates the compressor inlet air to provide a stabilized source of air for the compressor. An flare tube fitting is referred to in which picture? 1. Some hydraulic systems incorporate a device which is designed to remain open to allow normal fluid flow in the line, but closed if the fluid flow increases above an established rate. This device is generally referred to as hydraulic fuse. A hydraulic motor converts fluid pressure to rotary motion. Which of the following lists only desirable properties of a good hydraulic fluid that has chemical stability? Low viscosity, high flash point, and high fire point. The component in the hydraulic system that is used to direct the flow of fluid is the selector valve. What type of selector valve is one of the most commonly used in hydraulic systems to provide for simultaneous flow of fluid into and out of the connected actuating unit? 4-port closed center valve. Phosphate ester-based hydraulic fluids is very susceptible to contamination from water in the atmosphere. An O-ring intended for use in a hydraulic system using MIL H5606 mineral-based fluid will be marked with a blue stripe or dot. If a rigid tube is too short for the flare to reach its seat before tightening, pulling it into place by tightening may distort the flare. Which of the following is the most commonly used seal to prevent internal and external leakage in both directions of a hydraulic unit? O-ring. Chatter in a hydraulic system is caused by air in the system. If fluid is added to a reservoir in a constant pressure hydraulic system while the system is pressurized, what will result? The fluid level will increase when the system pressure is reduced. How is the air in a hydraulic accumulator prevented from entering the fluid system? By physically separating the air chamber from the oil chamber with a flexible or movable separator. Excluding lines, which components are required to make up a simple hydraulic system? Pump, reservoir, selector valve, and actuator. If the hydraulic system pressure is normal while the engine-driven pump is running, but there is no pressure after the engine has been shut off, it indicates no air pressure in the accumulator. If an aircraft's constant pressure hydraulic system cycles more frequently than usual and no fluid leakage can be detected, the most probable cause is low accumulator air preload. If an aircraft hydraulic system requires mineral-based hydraulic fluid, but phosphate ester-based hydraulic fluid is used, what will be the effect on the system? The system will be contaminated, fluids will not blend, and the seals will fail. A hydraulic system operational check during ground run-up of an aircraft indicates that the wing flaps cannot be lowered using the main hydraulic system, but can be lowered using the emergency hand pump. Which is the most likely cause? The fluid level in the reservoir is low. If it is necessary to adjust several pressure regulating valves in a hydraulic system, What particular sequence, if any, should be followed? Units with the highest pressure settings are adjusted first. A hydraulic accumulator is charged with an air preload of 1000 psi. When a hydraulic system pressure of 3000 psi is developed, the pressure on the air side of the accumulator will be 3000 psi. Which of the following allows fluid to flow unimpeded in one direction? In one direction, but prevents fluid flow in the other direction. A check valve. Pressure is a term used to indicate the force per unit area. Pressure is usually expressed in pounds per square inch. Pneumatic systems utilize relief valves. Which valve installed in a hydraulic system will have the highest pressure setting? Thermal relief valve. The hydraulic component that automatically directs fluid flow from either the normal source or an emergency source to an actuating cylinder is called a shuttle valve. The air that is expended and no longer needed when an actuating unit is operated in a pneumatic system is exhausted or dumped, usually overboard. After installation of a rebuilt hydraulic hand pump, it is found that the handle cannot be moved in the pumping direction, the pressure stroke. The most likely cause is an incorrectly installed hand pump outboard check valve. Characteristics of Mill H5606 hydraulic fluid are red color, petroleum base, will burn, uses synthetic rubber seals. In a typical high-pressure pneumatic system, if the moisture separator does not vent accumulated water when the compressor shuts down, a likely cause is a malfunctioning solenoid dump valve. When servicing aircraft hydraulic systems, use the type of fluid specified in the aircraft's manufacturer's maintenance manual or instruction plate affixed to the unit. Which seals are used with petroleum-based hydraulic fluid? Buna N. What is used to flush a system normally serviced with Mill H5606 hydraulic fluid? Naphtha or Varsol. The purpose of restrictors in hydraulic systems is to control the rate of movement of hydraulically operated mechanisms. Quick disconnect couplings in hydraulic systems provide a means of quickly connecting and disconnecting hydraulic lines without loss of fluid or entrance of air into the system. A common cause of slow actuation of hydraulic components is internal leakage in the actuating unit. A hydraulic pump is a constant displacement pump if it delivers a uniform rate of fluid flow. A filter incorporating specially treated cellulose paper is identified as a micronic filter. What type of valve in an aircraft hydraulic system permits fluid flow to flow freely in one direction but restricts the rate at which fluid is allowed to flow in the other direction? Orifice check valve. Characteristics of Mill H7644 hydraulic fluids are blue color, vegetable base, will burn, natural rubber seals. One of the main advantages of Skydro is its wide operating temperature. If two actuating cylinders which have the same cross-sectional area but different lengths of stroke are connected to the same source of hydraulic pressure, they will exert equal amounts of force and will move at the same rate of speed. The removal of air from an aircraft hydraulic system is generally accomplished by operating the various hydraulic components through several cycles. If hydraulic fluid is released when the air valve core of the accumulator is depressed, it is evidence of a ruptured diaphragm or leaking seals. Refer to Figure 12, which illustrations shows the correct spiral for Teflon backup rings. 1 and 3. What happens to the output of a constant displacement hydraulic pump when the hydraulic system pressure regulator diverts the fluid from the system to the reservoir? The output pressure reduces, but the volume remains the same. The installation of a new metal hydraulic line should be made with enough bends to allow the tube to expand and contract with temperature changes and to absorb vibrations. A flexible sealing element subject to motion is a packing. Hydraulic system accumulators serve which of the following functions? Supplement the pump when the demand is beyond the pump's capacity, and store power for limited operation of components if the pump is not operating. A fully charged hydraulic accumulator provides a source for additional hydraulic power when heavy demands are placed on the system. In a gear-type hydraulic pump, a mechanical safety device is incorporated to protect the pump from overload is the shear pin. Components containing phosphate ester-based hydraulic fluid may be cleaned with Stoddard solvent. Which of the following safeguards ensures proper system operation and mitigates damage to non-metallic components of the hydraulic pump system? When adding fluid to a system, use the type specified in the aircraft's manufacturer's maintenance manual or on the instruction plate affixed to the reservoir or unit being serviced. What is the main purpose of a pressurized reservoir in a hydraulic system? Prevent hydraulic pump cavitation. Unloading valves are used with many engine-driven hydraulic pumps to relieve the pump pressure. Which is a characteristic of synthetic-based hydraulic fluid? High flash point. Petroleum-based hydraulic fluid is which color? Red. A flexible hydraulic hose identified as MIL H8788 will have a stripe running the length of the hose. This stripe is installed without excessive twisting. Which characteristics apply to the aircraft hydraulic system? Minimum maintenance requirements, lightweight and simple to inspect. How many of these seals are used with petroleum-based hydraulic fluid? Neoprene and Buna-N. What safety device is usually located between the driving unit and hydraulic pump drive shaft? Drive pump coupling shear section. The unit in a hydraulic system that requires a certain action to be completed before another action can begin is called a sequence valve. Where can information be obtained about the compatibility of fire-resistant hydraulic fluid with aircraft materials? Fluid manufacturers' technical bulletins. The purpose of an orifice check valve is to restrict flow in one direction and allow free flow in the other direction. Which is a characteristic of petroleum-based hydraulic fluid? Flammable under normal condition. Which of the following is adversely affected by atmospheric humidity if left unprotected? Skydrol hydraulic fluid. Which seal/material is used with phosphate ester-based hydraulic fluids? butyl rubber. The primary purpose of a hydraulic actuating unit is to transform fluid motion into mechanical pressure. Fluid pressure into useful work. Using a hand pump, pressure of 100 psi has been built up in a hydraulic system. The hand pump piston is 1 inch in diameter, and half-inch line connects the hand pump to an actuating cylinder 2 inches in diameter. What is the pressure in the line between the hand pump and the actuator? 100 psi. Seals used with mineral-based hydraulic fluid are identified by which color code? Blue dot or stripe. Heat exchanger cooling units are required in some aircraft hydraulic systems because of high pressures and high rates of fluid flow. A pilot reports that when the hydraulic pump is running, the pressure is normal. However, when the pump is stopped, no hydraulic pressure is available. This is an indication of a leaking accumulator air valve. A cross-flow valve, which is designed to bypass fluid from one side of an actuating cylinder to the other side under certain conditions, may be found in some aircraft installed in the landing gear system. An emergency supply of fluid. An emergency supply of fluid is often retained in the main hydraulic system reservoir by the use of a standpipe. The supply line is connected to the inlet of the main hydraulic system. One of the distinguishing characteristics of an open center selector valve used in a hydraulic system is that fluid flows through the valve in the off position. The internal resistance of a fluid which tends to prevent it from flowing is called viscosity. How can the proper hydraulic fluid to be used in an airplane be determined? By consulting the aircraft's manufacturer's service manual. If a hydraulic brake system uses neoprene rubber packing materials, the correct hydraulic fluid to service the system is mineral-based oil. In a hydraulic system that has a reservoir pressurized with turbine engine compressor bleed air, which unit reduces the air pressure between the engine and the reservoir? The air pressure regulator. Generally, the first step in removing an accumulator from an aircraft is to relieve the system pressure. Although dents in the heel of a bend are not permissible, they are acceptable in the remainder of a hydraulic tube, providing they are less than 1% of the tube diameter. 20%. The main system pressure relief valve in a simple hydraulic system equipped with a power control valve should be adjusted with the power control valve held in the closed position, which is true regarding the ground check of a flap operating mechanism that has just been installed. If the time required to operate the mechanism decreases with successive operations, it indicates the air is being worked out of the system. When hydraulic system pressure control and relief units fail to function properly, how are most systems protected against overpressure? A shear section on the hydraulic pump drive shaft. Many hydraulic reservoirs contain a small quantity of fluid which is not available to the main hydraulic pump. This fluid is retained to supply fluid to the auxiliary pump. A loud hammering noise in a hydraulic system that has an accumulator usually indicates too low or no preload in the accumulator. To check the error charge in a hydraulic accumulator, reduce all hydraulic pressure, then observe the reading on the accumulator air gauge. Teflon hose that has developed a permanent set from being exposed to high pressure or temperature should not be straightened or bent further. Wood device in a hydraulic system is a system with a constant delivery pump allows circulation of the fluid when no demands are on the system. Pressure regulator. Characteristics of Mill H8446 hydraulic fluid are light purple color, phosphate ester base, fire resistant, butyl rubber seals. A worn hydraulic pump shaft seal can normally be detected by hydraulic fluid flowing from the pump drain line. Select the valve used in a hydraulic system that directs pressurized fluid to one end of an actuating cylinder and simultaneously directs fluid flow to the reservoir from the other end. Selector valve. After a hydraulic accumulator has been installed and air chamber charged, the main system hydraulic pressure gauge will not show a hydraulic pressure reading until the fluid side of the accumulator has been charged. Severe kickback of the emergency hydraulic hand pump handle during the normal intake stroke will indicate which is the following. The hand pump outlet check valve is sticking open. Materials which are Skydrol compatible or resistant include common aircraft metals, polyurethane, and epoxy paints. Hydraulic fluid reservoirs are sometimes designed with a standpipe in one of the outlet ports in order to assure emergency supply of fluid. The outlet port with a standpipe in it furnishes fluid to the normal system power pump. What is the viscosity of hydraulic fluid? The internal resistance of a fluid which tends to prevent it from flowing. Which statement about fluids is correct? All fluids readily transmit pressure. Two types of hydraulic fluids currently being used in civil aircraft are mineral base and phosphate ester base.